I woke up this morning like I do every morning for the past 10 years, staring at the ceiling of my small apartment in Portland, Oregon, watching the shadows dance across the cracked paint. My name is Michael, and I'm about to tell you something I've never told anyone before. Not my therapist, not my few remaining friends, not even the private investigators I hired 3 years ago. This is the story of why I disappeared for 10 years, and I promise you, by the end of this, you'll understand why. Some secrets are so heavy they can crush you. Why some truths are so painful they can make you abandon everything you've ever loved. It started on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were always our day, mine and my dad's. Every Tuesday evening, we'd sit on the back porch of our house in Sacramento, drinking sweet tea that my mom made just the way we liked it, talking about everything and nothing. I was 22 years old, fresh out of college, working at a marketing firm downtown, still living at home because honestly, why would I leave? My parents were my best friends. My dad, Robert, was this gentle giant of a man who coached Little League on weekends and never missed a single one of my soccer games growing up. My mom, Susan, taught 3rd grade and had this laugh that could light up a whole room. We weren't rich, we weren't special, we were just happy. And that Tuesday, that ordinary Tuesday in June, was the last time I saw them as the person I used to be. I came home from work around 6, loosened my tie, grabbed a beer from the fridge. Dad was already on the porch, and I could hear Mum humming in the kitchen. Everything was normal. Everything was perfect. I walked through the living room, and that's when I saw it. A letter on the coffee table addressed to me in handwriting I didn't recognize. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, expensive-looking. No return address. Something about it made my stomach turn, like my body knew before my brain did that this was going to change everything. I picked it up, felt the weight of it, and almost put it back down. Almost walked away. Sometimes I lie awake at night wishing I had, but I opened it, and inside were documents, medical documents, DNA test results, and a letter written in shaky handwriting that began with the words, "Dear Michael, you don't know me, but I'm your biological mother." The world didn't stop. That's what they say in movies, right? That time stands still, but it didn't. Everything kept moving, the clock on the wall kept ticking. I could still hear my mum humming in the kitchen, my dad shuffling on the porch. But I was frozen, staring at these words that made no sense. I read them again and again. The woman who wrote this letter, her name was Catherine, and she was dying. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She had maybe 6 months left, and she was using that time to tell me that the parents I had loved my entire life, the people who raised me, who I thought I knew everything about, had been lying to me for 22 years. I was adopted, and they never told me. The letter explained everything in brutal detail. Catherine had been 17 when she got pregnant, a junior in high school in a small town in Montana. The father was her boyfriend, a senior who bolted the moment she told him. Her parents, strict and religious, gave her 2 options: have the baby and give it up for adoption, or leave. She chose the first option, spent 9 months carrying me, gave birth to me, held me for exactly 2 hours, and then signed the papers. She went on with her life, got married, had 2 more children, built a career as a nurse, but she never forgot about me. And now, dying, she wanted to meet me. She wanted to explain. She wanted, and I'll never forget these words, to see the man my baby became before I leave this earth. Attached to her letter were the adoption papers, the DNA results proving she was telling the truth, and a note from the adoption agency, confirming everything. There were also 3 photographs, one of her as a teenager holding a baby, me, tears streaming down her face, one of her now, thin and frail, sitting in what looked like a hospital room, and one of two kids, teenagers, my half-siblings I never knew existed, smiling at the camera without a care in the world. I don't remember walking outside. I don't remember confronting my parents. But suddenly I was on that porch, and my dad was looking up at me with those kind eyes, and my mom was standing in the doorway with a dish towel in her hands, and I was holding up these documents, shaking, asking them if it was true. The look on their faces told me everything. My mom started crying immediately. My dad stood up, reached for me, and I backed away. I couldn't let him touch me. If he touched me, I might break, and I needed answers before I broke. They told me everything. How they'd tried for years to have a child and couldn't. How they'd gone through the adoption process and had been chosen by a young girl in Montana who wanted her baby to have a good life. How they'd always planned to tell me, but never found the right time. First, I was too young to understand. Then, I was a moody teenager, and they didn't want to upset me. Then I was in college and stressed, and then. Always another excuse. Always another reason to keep the secret. My dad said, and his voice cracked when he said it, "You were always our son, Michael. From the moment we held, you were ours. We didn't want you to ever feel like you were anything else, but I did feel like something else. In that moment, I felt like a stranger, like I was looking at two people I didn't know, who had built my entire life on a lie. Every birthday, every Christmas, every Tuesday evening on that porch, all of it felt contaminated somehow, tainted by this secret they kept. I couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in. My mom was begging me to sit down, to talk about it, to let me explain more. But there was nothing more to explain. The facts were simple. I was adopted, they never told me, and now a dying woman I'd never met wanted to see me before she died. I left that night, packed a bag, got in my car, and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I called in sick to work the next day, and the day after that, and then I just stopped calling. I drove north, toward Montana, toward Catherine. I needed to meet her. I needed to look into the eyes of the woman who gave birth to me and ask her why. Why did she give me up? Why did she wait until she was dying to find me? Why did everyone in my life think it was okay to keep these massive secrets from me? I found her in a hospice in Billings. Small town, quiet streets, mountains in the distance. She was in room 247, and when I walked in, she was sleeping. She looked so small in that bed, so fragile. I stood there for what felt like hours, just watching her breathe, trying to see myself in her features. She had my nose, my hands. When she woke up and saw me standing there, she started crying, these silent tears that just rolled down her cheeks. She whispered, "You came. I didn't think you'd come." We talked for hours that first day. She told me about her life, about the decisions she made, about the guilt she carried. She said giving me up was the hardest thing she ever did. But she was 17 and terrified and knew she couldn't give me the life I deserved. She chose my parents, Robert and Susan, because they seemed warm and desperate for a child, and she thought they'd love me the way she couldn't at that age. She signed papers agreeing not to contact me until I was 18. But by then she was married with kids and thought maybe it was better to let sleeping dogs lie. And then cancer happened and she realized she was running out of time. I met my half-siblings too, Emma and Jack, 16 and 14. They knew about me, had known for years that they had an older half-brother out, in there somewhere. They were nervous and excited and kept asking me questions about my life, like I was some kind of celebrity. They didn't understand why I seemed so angry, so lost. To them, this was a happy reunion. To me, it was the unraveling of everything I thought I knew. I stayed in Montana for 2 months. I rented a tiny apartment, got a job washing dishes at a local diner, visited Catherine every day. My parents called constantly, left voicemails begging me to come home, to talk to them. I ignored every single one. I was so angry at them for lying, angry at Catherine for giving me up and then disrupting my life decades later, angry at the universe for making everything so complicated. But mostly, I was angry at myself for feeling angry, because part of me understood. Part of me knew that everyone involved had done what they thought was best. But understanding didn't make the pain go away. Catherine died in August. I was holding her hand when she went. Emma and Jack were there too, and Catherine's husband, a kind man named David, who thanked me for coming, for giving Catherine peace in her final days. At the funeral, people kept telling me how much I looked like her, how she talked about me constantly in those last weeks. They thought it was beautiful, this deathbed reunion. I felt numb. After the funeral, I couldn't go home. I tried. I got in my car, started driving south towards Sacramento, and then I just kept driving, past California, into Arizona, then New Mexico, then Texas. I was running, but I didn't know from what. Maybe from the truth, maybe from the pain, maybe from the realization that my entire identity was built on a story that wasn't complete. I worked odd jobs, stayed in cheap motels, kept moving. My parents' calls became less frequent. After a year, they mostly stopped, though my mom would still leave a message on my birthday and Christmas telling me she loved me, that the porch was waiting for me whenever I was ready. I wasn't ready. I spent those years trying to figure out who I was. Was I Michael Thompson, the son of Robert and Susan, the kid from Sacramento who loved soccer and Tuesday evening talks? Or was I the son of Catherine, the baby she gave up? The product of a teenage pregnancy in Montana? I tried to be both. I tried to be neither. I worked construction in Dallas, washed dishes in New Orleans, picked fruit in Florida. I let my beard grow, got a tattoo, changed my phone number twice. I became someone else. Or maybe I became no one. The years blurred together. 2 became 3, became 5, became 10. And then 3 months ago, I got a letter. My mom's handwriting, forwarded through 5 different addresses before it found me in Portland. Inside was a single photograph and a note that said, "Your father had a stroke. He's okay, but he's not the same. He sits on the porch every Tuesday evening waiting for you. I know you're angry. I know we hurt you. But please, Michael, if you ever loved us even a little bit, come home. Come home before it's too late. I'm not asking you to forgive us. I'm just asking you to say goodbye." The photograph was of my dad, older now, grayer, thinner, sitting on that porch with 2 glasses of sweet tea on the table beside him. One for him, one for me. And I broke. After 10 years of running, of anger, of trying to find myself, I broke. Because I realized something so obvious, so simple, that I couldn't believe it took me a decade to understand. Family isn't just blood. It's not about DNA or biology or who gave birth to you. It's about who shows up, who stays, who loves you when you're unlovable. And Robert and Susan Thompson had shown up every single day of my life for 22 years. They fed me, clothed me, went to my soccer games, helped with homework, taught me to drive, paid for college, loved me unconditionally. They made a mistake by not telling me, sure, but they loved me. God, they loved me so much. I drove home the next day, drove for 18 hours straight, stopping only for gas. When I pulled up to the house in Sacramento, it looked exactly the same. Same peeling paint on the shutters, same rosebush my mum planted when I was 10, same porch with the same 2 rocking chairs. It was Tuesday evening. Of course it was Tuesday. My mum opened the door before I even knocked, and she just stood there, hand over her mouth, crying. She looked so old. When did she get so old? I said, "Hi, Mum," and she pulled me into a hug so tight. I thought my ribs might crack. My dad was on the porch. He looked up when I walked out there, and his face did this thing, this crumbling and rebuilding at the same time. He couldn't speak very well since the stroke, but he stood up, shaky on his feet, and he hugged me. He smelled the same. After 10 years, after everything, he smelled exactly the same, like Old Spice and coffee and home. He managed to say, "Tuesday, our day." And I nodded, crying now too, saying, "Yeah, Dad, our day." We sat there for hours, the three of us. They didn't ask where I'd been. I didn't explain. We just sat drinking sweet tea that was a little too sweet, watching the sun go down, being together. My mom held my hand. My dad kept reaching over to touch my shoulder, like he needed to make sure I was real. And I realized that this right here was what I'd been running from. Not the lie, not the adoption, but the fear that if they lied about this, maybe they lied about loving me too. But they hadn't. They hadn't lied about that. Not for one single second. I've been home for 3 months now. I moved back into my old room. Got a job at a marketing firm downtown. Different company, but same work. I see my parents every day. Every Tuesday, we sit on that porch. My dad's speech is getting better slowly. My mum's smile is back. We don't talk about the missing 10 years much. They're just gone, a black hole in all our lives. But we talk about now, about the future, about how maybe, if I'm ready, we could reach out to Emma and Jack, my half-siblings, about how family can be complicated and messy and built on imperfect foundations. But that doesn't make it any less real. I'm telling you this story now because I want you to understand something. I disappeared for 10 years because I thought I needed to find myself, to figure out who I really was without the lie I'd been living. But what I learned is that you don't find yourself by running away. You find yourself by facing the truth. All of it, the beautiful and the ugly. My truth is that I was given up by a scared 17-year-old girl who loved me enough to want better for me, and I was chosen by 2 people who loved me enough to raise me as their own. Both of those things are true. Both of those things made me who I am. The reason for my disappearance will mess with you because it's not dramatic. There was no crime, no conspiracy, no dangerous secret, just a lie, a secret, and a young man too hurt and proud to see that the people who lied to him did so out of love, not malice. I wasted 10 years being angry, 10 years that my dad needed me, 10 years that my mom cried herself to sleep wondering if I was okay, 10 years that I can never get back. And for what? To prove a point? To punish them? To find myself? I didn't find myself in those 10 years. I lost myself. And I only found my way back when I stopped running and came home. So if you're watching this and you're estranged from your family, if there's something between you and the people who raised you, I'm begging you, don't wait 10 years. Don't waste a decade like I did. Life is so short. My biological mother taught me that. She had 6 months to say goodbye, and she used every second. My dad's stroke taught me that. One day he was fine, the next day he couldn't speak. Time is not promised. Love is not guaranteed. And family, real family, is the people who show up, who stay, who love you even when you're gone for 10 years without a word. I'm Michael Thompson. I'm the son of Robert and Susan Thompson. I'm also the son of Catherine, who gave me life. And I'm finally, after all these years, okay with both of those truths. I'm home. And every Tuesday I sit on that porch with my dad, drinking sweet tea, talking about everything and nothing, grateful for every single second. Because bonds, real bonds, the ones built on love and choice and showing up every single day, those bonds conquer all. Even anger, even pain, even 10 years of silence. Those bonds brought me home. And I hope wherever you are, whatever you're running from, that your bonds bring you home too.